Hi everyone, I'm thilsey. Welcome to my channel and welcome to a very special video because today we are celebrating 10,000 subscribers. I'm not gonna do like a whole speech right now because that's just gonna make things kind of awkward, but I want to say thank you one more time. Thank you so much for being here and supporting my channel. You have no idea how incredible that is and I'm just so grateful. But to celebrate this incredible milestone, I wanted to do my first ever sim dump, so this is what you're watching right now, and you can download all the sims that I made with the link below to my Patreon, which is going to lead you to like a list of all the sims. I made 5 sims in kind of different styles, so you'll be able to find at least one that you like. But while you are watching this sim dump, I thought it would be kind of nice to kind of just to let you get to know me, because I haven't really shared that much about myself, and at this point it's weird that I haven't like properly introduced myself ever. So I thought that this would be a nice opportunity to, so I had you send in your questions in the last couple of weeks, so let's go through them right now. I split up the questions into different categories so it's kind of easier to follow along. So first it's just general questions about me, then general questions about YouTube, and then more content specific. So let's get started with our first questions. What's your name? What are your pronouns? And how old are you? My name is Monica. My pronouns are she, her. I'd be okay with pretty much anything else, honestly, but I'm kind of sticking to she, her because in my language, for example, they, them doesn't exist. I just kind of settled for this so I don't have to split my identity per language, if that makes sense. But I'm genuinely okay with any pronouns. And I am 23 years old. At this point, it doesn't even matter. I just always forget. But anyway, do you have any siblings and are you in a relationship? I luckily don't have siblings. I don't think that I'd do well in that sort of dynamic. I think that that would just drive me completely crazy. So no, I don't have siblings. And I am in a relationship. I live with my partner. I also got 2 questions about pets. So what pets do you have, and do you have pets? I technically have pets. I have 2 cats, but like not really because I don't live with them. They live with my mother, and the idea was to have the cats be with me and my partner, but we live really far away and taking them on such a big trip was just not as doable as we thought. So they don't live with us right now, but hopefully if we eventually move back, they will live with us. And the last few general questions are: where do you live? What's your zodiac sign? And what's your favorite series? I live in Scotland, but I'm from Croatia. My zodiac sign is a Sagittarius. I was supposed to be a Scorpio, but I was like a couple of days late for my due date, so I guess that the season of the sign changed or whatever. I don't know anything about astrology, but you probably get what I mean. My favorite series outside of Sims is, I'm not really sure because I don't really watch that many series, honestly, but I really liked What We Do in the Shadows. And I also got a couple of questions about what I do outside of Sims. So outside of your content, what do you do? Job, hobbies, schooling, etc. Also, what are you studying in uni? What do you plan on doing with your degree? What are your hobbies outside of Sims? Currently, I'm in a bit of a weird space because I'm in between uni and getting a job because I've decided to drop out of uni in my final year because I realized that I was just way too unhappy. I haven't officially withdrawn yet. This is something that I have to take care of basically right now. So then I'll start looking for a job, but I've been in this kind of weird in-between space for about a month now because, you know, the holidays and everything, I couldn't really take care of all the paperwork while stuff was away for like Christmas and stuff. So I've been focusing on sim stuff like basically full time for the last couple of weeks, which was really nice, but now I have to start taking care of all of this. But when it comes to my degree, I went to uni for interaction design. If you don't know what that is, I don't blame you. It's kind of difficult to explain because a lot goes into it, but I think that the best way to explain it is when you go to a museum and you see some kind of interactive exhibit where you can make like stuff move or change or whatever, that's something that I could be doing. So it's like a lot of programming, sometimes a bit of 3D printing, projection, mapping, stuff like that. It's really interesting, but I was just kind of unhappy at my uni. But when it comes to hobbies outside of Sims, I don't really have that many, to be honest. I'm a little boring when it comes to just my personal life because I dedicate all of my free time to doing content stuff and then spending time with my partner just to keep myself sane. So that's kind of all I do. I'm really not that exciting, to be honest. But now let's move on to some more YouTube-y questions. What are your biggest YouTube inspirations and other YouTubers you enjoy? Well, I think that my first initial big YouTube inspiration was definitely Claire Siobhan. I mean, I started my YouTube because of her. I really loved her content. I loved her Dreamhouse series. I loved her Not So Very, and I was like, you know what? I could do this. I think that I could do this, and she was such an inspiration for me for at least the first 6 months or so when I started making my content, and then I branched out a little bit and learned a lot more on my own, but she was definitely that initial push that made me actually start. But some other YouTubers that I enjoy and that I take inspiration from are some of my friends and also some other big YouTubers. So some of my friends that I would definitely recommend that you check out if you haven't would be Genova Sims, Living Dead Gal, Sims Boo. I like Fantasia's content, she's just so sweet. Ashley Plays. I mean, I could just be sitting here all day and just list everyone, so I don't even want to get started because I know that I will forget someone, so I'm not gonna make like a huge list right now. It's a lot of pressure, I haven't really thought it through, but there are just so many wonderful, amazing, talented creators in this community. Have you ever dealt with recording fright? I get super nervous when I try to record, and that's part of why I don't have my own YouTube just yet. Oh, absolutely. This is something that I struggle with so much, especially in voiceovers, honestly. And recording fright, it's something that I have quite severely, I would say. Hopefully you can't tell too much, but I still, even after I think about 2 years that I'm making videos now, I still stutter a lot. I still have to take multiple takes of the same sentence. I just get so confused and flustered. I don't even know what I'm talking about at some points. It's really difficult. I try to cut everything out in editing. Sometimes you can kind of tell when a cut is really awkward and there's like a weird audio glitchiness because I'm literally stitching a sentence together from different takes because it's just that bad. I don't really have any advice how to get over it, honestly. As I said, I've been doing this for about 2 years. I feel like it has gotten better since I started, of course, but I don't know if it's ever going to disappear, so I don't really have any advice other than just practicing a lot. It's not gonna get any better if you don't start making videos, really. What type of PC do you have and other recording equipment? I have an Asus VivoBook laptop, not really sure which like model of them because there's like a billion of them, but it's a pretty good laptop. I wanted to get something portable because of my current situation with like traveling, and I needed it for uni, not anymore, rip, but still. And I have Razer Series Mini microphone, which is pretty good. I've had it for about 2 years, basically since I started. I am thinking about upgrading, but right now it's pretty good and it's definitely affordable, so if you're thinking about getting a microphone, I would recommend that one. I also have a mic arm for it. How do you come up with stories while you're playing? Well, that's really a mix of the two, with improvising and actually planning things. I used to, when I was still doing like my Crybaby Whims Generation 1, I would write out little notes of plans, what I wanted to get through in the episode. I would have like bullet points of everything that I wanted to have happen, which most times I would make it work, but sometimes the game would just throw something at me, and I tend to usually accept those things that the game just does. It's really fun to improvise, but it's definitely a mix of improvising and planning. I'm not really doing bullet points anymore, I just kind of have them in my head. There's definitely a lot of planning that goes into it. I can't really go into a specific process because there isn't one. I just think about what will be kind of interesting to have happen next, but sometimes I just plan out the entire story before I even start. That's kind of what I did with my For Rent series, so you're just kind of seeing what I came up with before I even started, although it is a little bit different because still the game did stuff that made me have to change my plans a little bit. And also for my Crybaby Whims, for example, I usually plan from episode to episode. Right now for Aspen, I have a couple of next episodes planned, which is actually kind of nearing the end of her generation, so I do have planned out how everything's gonna end, except maybe the very last episode. And for the next generation of Crybaby Whims with Rosalie, believe it or not, I have literally everything planned out in very specific detail, so it kind of really depends on the type of story. Sometimes I have everything, sometimes I go episode by episode. How long do you usually record for? That kind of depends on what kind of video it is. For cast videos, I go from maybe 20 minutes to like an hour if I'm making multiple sims, but the average would be around 40 minutes. And for Let's Plays, it's really anywhere from 45 minutes to 2 hours, but I really don't like recording for 2 hours. It's okay while recording, but I hate myself when I'm editing footage that is that long, so I try to keep it around an hour, maybe hour and a half max. Even that sometimes feels a little bit too long. Are you going to do a face reveal? And another question is, I love that you don't use facecam during gameplay, and this is not a request for you to start, but do you think you will ever do a face reveal at some point? Well, funnily enough, I actually kind of considered doing this video as a face reveal, but then I realized that I have some limitations with my equipment equipment, so I couldn't really do that unfortunately, and it's something that I will have to figure out for the future. Because I did want to do a face reveal even like a year ago. I wanted to start in sometime early 2023, but it just never really happened because then I was focused on buying the laptop that I currently have and then some other things around the setup that I still haven't taken care of. So right now I'm just not focused on investing in that part of the setup, but I would like to do it for maybe cast videos because it's a lot more casual while you're just making Sims, and I feel like it will be kind of easier for me as well because sometimes there's an element of that kind of missing, especially in those sort of videos. I'm really struggling with intros for those videos because I just have like a Sim standing still in cast while I talk about what's going to be happening, so I'm usually really improvising what I'm going to do for the intros. But if you have face cam, you can just talk about things, so I'm really missing that element. But for gameplay, I don't think that I'll really necessarily ever do face cam for them. It doesn't really seem as necessary. Now moving on to some more specific question when it comes to my content and the channel. Would you ever start the Not So Berry challenge? I loved it. Well, first of all, thank you. And I would kind of really like to. I liked the story where it was going. I did have to quit that series because, I mean, this might seem like a superficial reason, but it simply just wasn't doing well. And when you're making content, especially when you're trying to stick to a schedule, it's really hard to keep something that you know is not going to do that well. I know that a lot of you did love Not So Berry and that you watched it and everything, but it was really hard to dedicate hours of my time to a video that I know would massively underperform. So I just had to end this series and focus my time on something that would bring a lot more value to my growth as well as to you watching it. But when it comes to Not So Berry, I did really love it. It's, I think, my first series where the storyline was getting like really interesting and kind of crazy, kind of like Not So Human is now. And my initial idea was to start that series again in a streaming format, maybe on Twitch or on YouTube or wherever. But that's also something that I can't really do because of some limitations, because I thought that I'd be able to upgrade my internet to be faster, but I actually realized that I don't have any better options. So right now I'm kind of stuck with what I have, which means that I still can't stream. But eventually when I'll be able to, I would love to pick it back up. It was a really fun series. Oh, and a comment that was with this question was, thank you so much for being you and sharing your content with us. Your impact goes far beyond what you can conceive. Thank you so much. Again, I'm just gonna get like super awkward if I go into all of the endlessly thanking you and everything, so I don't know how to respond to this, but thank you so much. That's so sweet. What Sims mods could you never play without? I could never play without, I mean, this is, I barely even consider it a mod, but MCC, it's just a necessity. If you play on PC and you're using mods, if you don't have that mod, honestly, what are you even doing? That mod is literally a necessity to manage the game, so that's something that I can't play without. I'm not even considering it a mod. At this point, it's just a part of the game. Like, not really, but you can't play the game without that. But when it comes to mods for gameplay, I genuinely can't play without the RPO mod because it just does so much for the relationships, for the pregnancy, and also the realistic birth mod. At first, I didn't think that it added that much. I mean, it does add a lot, but I was thinking, well, it just affects the birth, which is true, and some of the like stuff after the birth, but it's still such an important thing to like not have in the game. Now, when I've been playing with it for a couple of months, I couldn't go back, but before I thought that there's not really any need, and in general I kind of didn't want to do it because honestly, pregnancy and birth is something that always really fascinated me, but also really creeped me out. I don't know, I don't like it. It's just, it feels so unnatural, even though it's the most natural thing ever. But even now when I see it in like the realistic childbirth mode, when the sim is actually giving birth, I absolutely hate that part, but I still can't not have it in my game. What are some of the things you have enjoyed most about playing Sims on YouTube? Is there anything you enjoy more than you initially thought? And what is the hardest part of it? I definitely enjoy sharing my stories the most. I thought that I would be initially enjoying making cast videos a lot more because I started with just cast videos initially, which is something that I still really like, but Let's Plays are definitely something that I enjoy the most by far. And the hardest part is, I think that I mentioned already, voiceovers. I absolutely hate doing them. This one right now is a little bit more casual because I actually have stuff to talk about. I'm just reading your questions and replying to them, so it's not as high pressure. But when I just have a cast video, just a sped up version of a sim that I'm making, and I need to be talking about them and then something else as well, I feel like I have nothing to say. So it's definitely something that I am really struggling with, and it's something that I need to be working on. How has this channel and community impacted you? And if one was to start their own YouTube creator journey, what advice would you give them? Well, making this channel and starting this community has definitely changed some little things that I can tell about me. I'm definitely more willing to share stuff that I'm working on, share my stories, which before I would still like to do, but I didn't think that anyone would really care. But doing all of this has made me realize how many amazing and supportive people are out there and how many people actually want to see what you're doing. So that's just really eye-opening that all of this is making me realize that I'm not as invisible as I might think that I am. So that's just pretty amazing, honestly. And my advice for someone who would want to start YouTube is to literally just start it. You have nothing to lose except maybe a couple of hours that you spend on making your first video. But this might seem like a silly generic advice, but genuinely just start making content, because you can't improve if you don't start. And when you do start, you'll learn what you enjoy doing the most, what people like watching from you the most, and you will just improve in general when it comes to recording, editing, making thumbnails, just figuring out how things work. You'll find your style. It might feel really overwhelming and things will be all over the place and you'll feel maybe just so lost. What is your place in the community? But once you start developing all of these things, you'll feel right at home. Trust me. So you genuinely don't have anything to lose. And even if it doesn't really go anywhere, at least you made this wish of yours come true and you tried. That's the most important thing. And a lot of people who want to start doing YouTube just have this desire but don't start. It took me like almost 10 years to finally start my channel. I wanted to start when I was like 13, 14 and I started when I was 20 I think. So don't be like that. If you want to do YouTube, there's literally nothing stopping you. Just sit, press record, do something. Trust me, you will thank yourself later. At least you will do this one thing for you. Even if it doesn't give you like a billion subscribers, you did this for yourself. And I think that that is enough. What is your favorite series and or sim that you have made so far? And other similar questions. Who's your favorite sim and why? And who is your favorite sim of the last year? My favorite series is definitely Crybaby Whims. I feel like Generation 1 was really tame because there was drama, but it wasn't like that much drama because it was all very normal. Real people have relationships and cheat and have children and divorce and move, get jobs. So that generation, although it was really fun, it was like really normal. But then midway through second generation is where things got really crazy and they got really fun. So I feel like from midpoint of Gen 2 up until now, every episode just seems to be getting crazier and I just love it so much. And it's gonna continue going in that direction for sure. I mean, Aspen's story is just so crazy and silly, and trust me, the next episodes that I have planned are gonna be so much. They're gonna be like so much. I'm even considering if it's maybe a little bit too much. I'll have to ask some of my friends for feedback because I'm genuinely getting a little bit concerned that maybe I'm pushing a bit too far, but you'll see what's gonna happen. But for Rosalie's generation, I said that I have everything planned out, and her story is gonna be maybe a little bit more similar to Lauren's, not in terms of the actual story, but it's gonna be a lot more grounded in reality. It's gonna be a lot more like normal. There's still gonna be a lot going on, but it won't be like crazy gang criminal doing robberies and stuff like Aspen is doing. But speaking of who's my favorite sim, I think that right now it would be Aspen. I didn't think that I would enjoy her story that much. And honestly, when I first started playing with Aspen, my initial idea was to basically almost try to skip this generation. Just speedrun it, just finish it. That's why she had a teen pregnancy as well, because I just wanted the next generation to be born, to just focus on them. Because I didn't think that I would really enjoy playing with like a criminal in The Sims, especially because there's not really that much to do for them. And there's not really that many good mods out there. You do have like base mental and stuff, and I did try it. I just didn't really like it. It was a bit too much for me. So there's not really an in-between for like more light-hearted criminal. Yeah, it's silly, but I didn't really want Aspen's story to be like super brutal. So that's kind of what I wanted to avoid, to use like extreme violence and base mental. But I didn't really know what to do then. But I'm really glad that I actually developed Aspen's story, and with some heavy improvising, I made interesting stuff happen. So yeah, she's my favorite sim, and also I guess my favorite sim of the last year because I checked and her generation started in April, so I guess that she technically counts as a sim from last year. And moving on to the last couple of questions about just my general YouTube experience. How many followers would you like to have? Well, it's not something that I can really plan. I do have a goal for 2024. I would like to reach 25 5,000 subscribers by the end of this year, which I think is doable, but again, it's not something that I can necessarily influence because I can't really decide how many people will subscribe to me. I can only just make content which is hopefully good enough for people to want to subscribe. So that's basically my goal, to make good enough content to build this community up. But when it comes to my long-term goal for how many subscribers I want to have, I genuinely can't really say anything about that. I just know that I would like to have YouTube to become my full-time job, although that is currently very, very far from reality, but I have a feeling that it has potential to become that eventually. How long do you hope to continue making The Sims content? That's something that I thought about a couple of times already, because The Sims 4, even though it is a really big and a really successful game, it is still relatively niche when it comes to community. I feel like it can easily hit that growth ceiling where it just really can't go anywhere. So it is something that I'm worried about. So focusing all of your work and content on one game is kind of scary, not gonna lie, but I don't plan on changing my approach anytime soon. I will definitely stick to Sims 4, and eventually once Sims 5 comes out, I would like to cover it. If that is Project Renee, I do have a lot of opinions and I'm quite skeptical of it, but we'll see what happens with that. And I'm also really excited to cover Pair Lives eventually. So although I am sticking to The Sims 4 in the long term, I am not really going anywhere from this topic. I am thinking about doing these other Sims 4 adjacent games eventually when they're out. Do you think you would consider doing meet and greets at some point? That's a really interesting question, but it's also something that only makes sense for very huge creators, so it's not something that I've really thought about at all. If I would ever be fortunate enough to get to that point, of course that I would love to meet people who watch my content, and I would love to chat with people in real life who I see in the comments all the time. That would be absolutely amazing, but it's not something that I thought about at all because I'm really not at that point in my YouTube career yet. And the last question is, how much do you earn doing YouTube? Well, I'm not really sure if it's appropriate to talk about actual numbers here, but I will. I really value being super transparent with you, so let's talk about that. So if you don't know, you have to meet a certain amount that you can withdraw. You can't withdraw if you like make $5 in the entire month, you can't withdraw that. So you have to meet a certain amount. So for me, that is £60. I'm not really sure what it is in other currencies. So if you don't earn these £60 within a month that you're currently in, if you, for example, earn like £49, well, sucks to suck, you can't get paid. You have to have this entire next month go by and you will hopefully reach those £60 then, and then you can get the funds. So that's something to consider when you're first starting out and you first get monetized. It is very likely that you might not get paid for the first few months. I think that I got monetized last January and my first payment was in, I believe, March, because I didn't earn enough back then. And right now, my earnings are not really that much better either after a year of being monetized, honestly. It can go anywhere from me right now from £60 to £200 per month, and the average is maybe around 80, maybe 100, kind of really depends. It's genuinely just so random every month, so you can't really even know what to expect. It's really not that much money for the amount of work that goes into all the content, so if you're thinking about doing YouTube to earn money, this is definitely the wrong place for you. But I hope that you kind of learned something about this and that I explained it well. But that'll be all questions for today, and I hope that you got to know me a little bit better and that I answered everything that you were interested in. I just feel so weird actually doing this video. It feels so like self-centered, but genuinely, where would you get to know me this well? Because I don't really share stuff like this usually, not really for any reason. I just didn't think that anyone would care, honestly. But I'm just gonna go because I talked way too much at this point. So thank you so much for watching. If you're still here, I admire you for sitting through all of this rambling. I hope that you like the Sims that I made, and again, thank you so much for this amazing milestone of 10,000 subscribers, and I hope that you'll stick around even after this absolutely crazy rambling video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!